Millionaire adopts poor girl out of pity, without knowing she held a shocking secret. Comment what you think will happen. Your opinion is very important. And subscribe to my channel to support my work. Your help is very important. Rain lashed the cobblestone streets of Newport, Rhode Island on that chilly July afternoon. Zephyr Albuquerque, 58, drove his latest model Mercedes-Benz through the narrow streets of the historic downtown, lost in bitter thoughts. Raindrops streamed down the windshield as he replayed another heated phone argument with his ex-wife, Olivia, 55, who had chosen her medical career abroad over staying by his side. The real estate mogul gripped the steering wheel tightly, trying to contain the frustration that had consumed him for months. His empty mansion, his empire built on so much sacrifice, none of it seemed to matter now. The deserted streets due to the storm perfectly matched his state of mind. That's when something unexpected happened. A small figure darted out from between parked cars. Zephyr slammed on the brakes, his heart pounding in his chest. The car skidded a few feet before, coming to a complete stop, just inches away from a little girl clutching a small bouquet of drenched flowers. "Good heavens!" he exclaimed, his hands trembling as he turned off the ignition. The child stood still, like a statue, her large brown eyes fixed on him through the wet glass. She didn't look older than 6, her worn clothes plastered to her tiny body by the rain. Zephyr got out of the car, forgetting even his imported umbrella. "Are you okay? Where are your parents?" he asked, approaching cautiously. The girl, who he would later learn was named Cecily, just clutched the small bouquet tighter against her chest. "I'm selling flowers, sir," she replied, in a voice surprisingly steady for someone so small. "I need to bring money home for my grandma. Irene, she's sick." Something in the way the girl spoke, a maturity beyond her years, made Zephyr's chest ache. "You shouldn't be out in this storm, especially not alone. Where do you live?" "Near the breakers," Cecily replied, referring to a neighborhood outside the main downtown area. "But I can't go home yet. I need to sell all the flowers." Zephyr looked around. The street was completely deserted, the rain falling even harder now. "I'll buy all your flowers," he decided, pulling his wallet from his pocket. "But I'm taking you home. It's dangerous to be out here alone." Something in Cecily's eyes shifted, a shadow of suspicion crossing her face. "Grandma said not to take rides from strangers." "Your grandma's right," Zephyr agreed, surprised by his own patience. "But it's a downpour, and you could get sick. I promise I just want to help." The girl hesitated for a moment, her eyes studying the businessman's face intently. Finally, she nodded slightly. "You look sad like my grandma," she said, so directly that it caught Zephyr off guard. During the drive to Cecily's house, Zephyr learned that she lived only with her grandmother, Irene, 72. The girl spoke little, but every word seemed heavy with meaning. When they finally arrived at the address provided, a simple house with peeling paint, Zephyr's stomach sank. The door was opened by an elderly woman who could barely stand, her face etched with hardship. "Cecily, thank God!" Irene exclaimed, her voice weak and raspy. "I told you not to go out in this rain." "Sorry, Grandma, but look, I sold all the flowers," the girl replied, holding out the money Zephyr had given her. It was then that Zephyr noticed something that alarmed him. In the corner of the small, modest living room, dozens of drawings were pinned to the wall. They weren't ordinary children's drawings. There was something about them that caused a deep unease. Some depicted scenes that seemed strangely familiar, as if they were places he knew, but from a perspective he had never seen. "Mrs. Irene," he began, choosing his words carefully, "I couldn't help but notice you aren't well. Would you allow me to help? I can arrange for a doctor." "We don't need charity," Irene interrupted, proud even in her frailty. But a severe coughing fit prevented her from continuing, forcing her to lean against the wall. Cecily ran to hug her grandmother. her eyes now welling up. That's when Zephyr noticed something even more unsettling. In one of the drawings, partially visible behind them, there was what looked like his own car, but in a situation that hadn't happened yet. "Please," he insisted, "it's not charity. I almost hurt your granddaughter today. Let me at least try to make amends." What Zephyr didn't know, as he watched grandmother and granddaughter exchange silent glances, was that this seemingly casual moment would forever change the course of his life. He also didn't know that Martha, his 43-year-old housekeeper, upon receiving his call asking to prepare one of the mansion's guest rooms, would begin weaving a web of suspicion that would become far larger than anyone could imagine. That night, as the storm continued to batter Newport, 3 completely different lives became intertwined in a way none of them could have predicted. And Cecily's drawings, hidden in a folder under her bed, held secrets that, if revealed, could either heal or destroy those who dared to unravel them. The next morning, the Albuquerque mansion awoke with a different energy. Martha watched with suspicion as Zephyr guided Cecily and Irene through the luxurious hallways. The housekeeper couldn't understand her employer's sudden change. Always so cold and calculating, now showing an almost obsessive concern for the 2 strangers. "This will be your room," Zephyr announced, opening the door to one of the house's most beautiful chambers. Cecily entered timidly, her eyes scanning every detail of the room that seemed straight out of a fairy tale. The king-size 4-poster bed, the sky-blue silk curtains, the privileged view of the garden. Everything contrasted dramatically with the simple little room she shared with her grandmother. "Mr. Albuquerque," Irene began, visibly uncomfortable. "It's very kind of you, but we can't accept so much. We just need help with the medicine, as you offered." "Mrs. Irene," Zephyr interrupted firmly, "you can barely stand. The doctor I called last night was clear. You need absolute rest and proper treatment. How would Cecily manage on her own?" The girl, who had been quietly exploring the room until then, stopped in front of an antique desk. Her small fingers lightly touched the solid wood surface, as if recognizing something familiar. Martha noticed when she discreetly took a paper and pencil from the worn backpack she carried. "Can I draw here?" Cecily asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Of course you can," Zephyr replied, and something in his tone made Martha frown. In 20 years working in that house, she had never seen her employer show such gentleness. While Irene was settled into the next room, with all the comfort money could buy, Martha decided to keep a close eye on Cecily. The girl was already focused on her drawing, her lines surprisingly precise for a child her age. In the office, hours later, Zephyr was facing a different kind of storm. Theodore, his longtime business partner, made no secret of his disapproval of the situation. "Have you lost your mind?" he questioned, pacing back and forth. "Bringing 2 strangers into your home? What if it's a scam? Have you thought about your reputation?" "I don't care about reputation, Theodore," Zephyr replied, rubbing his temples. "That girl could have been seriously injured because of me and her grandmother." "I always knew Olivia leaving had affected you," Theodore interrupted, "but I didn't imagine it would get to this point. The shareholders won't like this at all." The argument was interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Martha, her normally serene face now marked by visible concern. "Sir, you need to see something," she said, hesitant. In Cecily's room, several drawings were spread across the desk, but they weren't ordinary children's drawings. In one of them, there was a detailed representation of the office where Zephyr and Theodore had been talking just minutes before. In the drawing, a red folder fell from a slightly ajar drawer, scattering documents on the floor. "She hasn't left the room," Martha assured. "How could she know about the office?" A shiver ran down Zephyr's spine. The red folder in the drawing was exactly where he kept the company's most confidential documents. Documents that, if revealed, could cause an unprecedented scandal. "Where is the girl now?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. In the garden, with her grandmother, Martha replied. But there's something else, sir. I found this when I was tidying her room. The housekeeper held out another drawing, this one looking older. It showed a scene that made Zephyr's blood run cold. The accident that almost happened the day before, with precise details of his car and the street. The date in the corner of the paper indicated it had been made 3 days earlier. In the garden, Cecily played among the rose bushes, seemingly oblivious to the commotion her drawings were causing. Irene, sitting in a wicker chair, watched her granddaughter with tear-filled eyes. "You shouldn't have made those drawings," the grandmother whispered as the girl approached. "You know they bring trouble." "But Grandma, sometimes they help," Cecily replied, her maturity beyond her years evident in every word. "Like when I drew the sad man before I met him. I knew he would need us." At that moment, Theodore watched the scene from the office window, his cell phone pressed against his ear. "Yes, he brought them both home," he said in a low voice. "No, I still don't know what the girl knows, but we need to act fast before it's too late." Night fell over the Albuquerque mansion, bringing with it a palpable tension. Zephyr, in his room, couldn't sleep. Cecily's drawings had awakened memories he had fought to keep buried. Memories of a time when he also believed in signs and premonitions, before life had taught him the hard way that dreams and visions only brought suffering. In the next room, Cecily was also awake. Sitting on her new bed, she worked on another drawing under the dim light of the lamp. Her quick, precise strokes revealed a scene that, if anyone could see, would cause panic. The image showed Zephyr's office in flames and a dark figure fleeing through the back door carrying a red folder. The date in the corner of the paper indicated 3 days in the future. The third day in the mansion began with unusual activity. Martha found Cecily asleep. Over her drawings, the pencils still held firmly in her small fingers. As she gathered the scattered sheets to organize them, the housekeeper let out a muffled cry that echoed through the silent hallway. "Mr. Albuquerque," she called out, running to her employer's room. "You need to see this urgently." Zephyr, who had barely managed to sleep, found Martha in the hallway, holding the drawings with trembling hands. The illustrations showed his office from different angles. First, a tense meeting between him and Theodore, then documents being secretly removed from a drawer, and finally the flames consuming everything, with a shadowy figure escaping through the back. "This is impossible," he murmured, feeling cold sweat trickle down his forehead. How could she know about today's meeting? "What meeting?" Martha questioned, her expression becoming even more concerned. "Theodore scheduled an extraordinary meeting for this afternoon. He said it was urgent, about the new developments," Zephyr replied, studying every detail of the drawings. "But this can't be real." In the next room, Irene was coughing violently. The noise woke Cecily, who immediately ran to her grandmother. The girl held the elderly woman's hand tightly, her big eyes filled with concern. "Grandma, don't forget the new medicine," she said, reaching for the bottle on the bedside table. "I saw in the drawing that it will help you." Zephyr, standing at the door, watched the scene with a knot in his throat. The intimacy between grandmother and granddaughter, the mutual care they shared, touched an old wound he had tried to ignore. He involuntarily remembered Olivia, how she used to care for him on the rare occasions he was sick, before ambition and work consumed all the love they felt. "Sir," Martha called softly, "what are we going to do about the drawings?" Before he could answer, the phone rang downstairs. It was Theodore, moving the meeting up to that morning. His voice sounded strange, almost forced, as he insisted he couldn't wait until the afternoon. During breakfast, served in the immense dining room, Cecily remained quiet, playing with the food on her plate. Her eyes occasionally turned to Zephyr, as if she wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come out. "Is everything all right, dear?" Martha asked, noticing the girl's unusual behavior. "The sad man can't go to the meeting today," Cecily said suddenly, her voice so serious that everyone at the table froze. "There's something bad hidden in the red folder." Zephyr felt his heart race. The red folder contained compromising documents about old negotiations, papers that could destroy not only his reputation, but also expose a much larger scheme involving several important businessmen in Newport. "How do you know about the folder?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "I see things before they happen," Cecily replied simply, as if talking about the weather. "It started after the fire, when the bad man hurt a lot of people." Irene coughed nervously, giving her granddaughter a warning look. "Cecily, we've talked about this." "What fire?" Zephyr interrupted, unable to contain his curiosity. But before the girl could answer, the doorbell rang. Theodore had arrived, earlier than expected, accompanied by a man Martha had never seen before. "Zephyr, my friend," Theodore exclaimed with false joviality. "I hope I'm not interrupting family breakfast." The sarcasm in his voice was evident. The man beside him, who introduced himself as Augustus, 61, maintained an artificial smile as his eyes scanned the room calculatingly. The moment Cecily saw Augustus, all the color drained from her face. The glass of juice she was holding slipped from her hands, shattering on the floor and staining the imported tablecloth. "It's him," she whispered, trembling visibly. "The man from the fire." Augustus turned abruptly towards the girl, his smile vanishing for an instant. It was only a moment, but Martha caught the flash of recognition and fear in his eyes. "What a lovely coincidence," Augustus said, quickly recovering his composure. "I didn't know you had children at home, Zephyr. Perhaps we should reschedule our meeting." "No!" Theodore quickly intervened. "The matter is too urgent to be postponed." Zephyr looked from Cecily to Augustus, his instinct telling him that something was very wrong. The girl's drawings, her reaction to seeing Augustus, Theodore's strange behavior, it all seemed part of a sinister puzzle that was beginning to form. "Martha," he called, decided, "please take Cecily and Mrs. Irene to the sunroom, and don't let anyone near them." As the housekeeper guided grandmother and granddaughter out of the room, Cecily looked at Zephyr one last time. Her eyes, normally sweet, were filled with an old sadness that seemed incompatible with her age. "Be careful of the fire, sad man," she said softly. "They want to hurt you, like they hurt the other children." The silence that followed her words was deafening. Augustus gripped his leather briefcase tightly, his knuckles white, while Theodore pulled Zephyr towards the office with suspicious urgency. In the sunroom, Cecily was already reaching for her pencils, starting a new drawing with frantic strokes. Martha watched, helpless, as the image took shape on the paper. The office, the flames, and now a new element, a golden key hidden behind the painting on the wall, the only thing that could prevent the tragedy that was about to unfold. In the office, the tension was palpable. Zephyr sat in his leather armchair, watching Theodore and Augustus intently. The latter maintained an artificial smile as he examined the objects in the room, his eyes lingering particularly on the painting behind the desk, exactly where, unbeknownst to them, Cecily had drawn the golden key. "So, what's the urgency?" Zephyr questioned, his voice controlled despite the apprehension he felt. Theodore opened his briefcase, taking out a series of documents. "It's about the new development in the historic downtown. There's a complication." "What kind of complication?" Zephyr asked, noticing how Augustus was discreetly approaching his desk. "The old property records," Theodore replied, spreading papers across the desk. "Apparently, there was an institution there before, an orphanage." The word orphanage made Zephyr momentarily freeze. Cecily's reaction to seeing Augustus, her words about other children, began to make terrible sense. In the sunroom, Martha watched Cecily draw frantically. The girl was now producing a sequence of images: the orphanage before the fire, children playing in the yard, and then the flames consuming everything. In each drawing, a shadowy figure appeared in the shadows, a figure that looked very much like Augustus. "Grandma," Cecily called suddenly, "tell her about the day you found me." Irene, who had been sitting quietly until then, sighed deeply. "It was almost a year ago," she began, her voice weak. "I was coming back from the pharmacy when I saw this little one, alone, holding a sketchbook. She had just escaped from St. Francis Orphanage, the night of the fire." Martha felt a shiver. "St. Francis Orphanage? The one on the property where Mr. Albuquerque is building the new mall?" "Exactly," Irene confirmed. "Cecily was one of the children there. She saw things. She tried to warn them about the fire, but no one believed her." In the office, the meeting took a sinister turn. Augustus finally revealed his true intentions. "You know, Zephyr," he began, his voice now stripped of any cordiality, "that property has an interesting history, stories that some people would prefer to remain buried." "What are you talking about?" Zephyr questioned, though a terrible premonition was already warning him. "The orphanage fire," Augustus replied coldly. "A tragic accident, wasn't it? But accidents leave traces, documents, investigations." Theodore intervened, his voice trembling. "The red folder, Zephyr. We need it." It was then that Zephyr understood. The red folder didn't just contain documents about shady deals. There was something more, something that connected Augustus to the orphanage fire. In the garden, Cecily continued drawing, but now her hands were shaking. "He's going to hurt. The sad man," she murmured, "like he hurt us." Martha couldn't take it anymore. "I have to do something," she decided, standing up. "You two stay here." The housekeeper ran through the mansion's hallways, her footsteps echoing on the marble floor. Years of working in that house had given her knowledge of every corner, every passage. There was a service entrance that led directly to the office. Perhaps she could hear what was happening. Meanwhile, in the office, the situation was rapidly deteriorating. "You don't understand, Zephyr," Augustus was saying, his mask of civility completely abandoned. "That orphanage was sitting on property that was too valuable. Some difficult decisions had to be made." "Difficult decisions," Zephyr repeated, his voice trembling with anger. "We're talking about children." "We're talking about business," Augustus cut in. "And now, that inconvenient little girl you brought home could ruin everything. She remembers me, Zephyr. She knows." In the hallway, Martha reached the service door just in time to hear those words. Her heart pounded as she understood the true extent of the danger Cecily was in. Back in the garden, the girl was starting a new drawing. This time, however, something was different. Her lines were more precise, more urgent. The image showed a scene from the past. Augustus in his office, signing documents with a woman. The date in the corner of the paper was 5 years ago. "Grandma," Cecily called, her voice trembling. "It's her, the lady who cried every night at the orphanage." Irene took the drawing, her eyes widening in recognition. "It can't be." In the office, Zephyr was cornered. Theodore had locked the main door while Augustus was methodically searching the drawers. "You won't find it," Zephyr said, trying to buy time. "The folder isn't here." "Don't lie to me," Augustus exploded. "I know you kept everything. The documents from the land sale, the forged fire investigation reports, the agreement I made with Isabel." The name made Zephyr frown. "Isabel?" "The social worker," Theodore clarified, avoiding eye contact. "With his old friend. She found out everything. About Augustus's plan, about how the fire was just an excuse to clear the land." At the service door, Martha covered her mouth to stifle a gasp. Isabel. She remembered that name. The young woman who worked briefly at Zephyr's company years ago, before disappearing mysteriously. In the garden, Cecily was completing her most revealing drawing. It showed Isabel, pregnant, leaving a baby on the steps of St. Francis Orphanage. The date on the drawing indicated exactly 6 years ago. The lady cried because she had to leave. "Me there," Cecily said softly, tears streaming down her face. She knew the bad man was going to do something bad, but no one believed her. Irene hugged her granddaughter tightly, finally understanding the true extent of the tragedy. Isabel wasn't just an employee who discovered a criminal scheme. She was Cecily's mother, forced to abandon her daughter in the very orphanage that would later be destroyed by those she tried to expose. In the office, Augustus was losing his patience. "Enough games, Zephyr. Where is the folder?" But before Zephyr could answer, a noise at the service door caught everyone's attention. Martha was about to do something that would change the course of that story forever. The noise at the service door made everyone in the office freeze. Martha, on the other side, held a yellowed envelope she had found hidden years ago while cleaning the mansion's attic. At the time, she hadn't understood its meaning, but now everything made sense. "Come in, Martha," Zephyr ordered, recognizing his housekeeper's familiar footsteps. "I know you're there." When she entered, Augustus advanced menacingly, but stopped when he saw the envelope in her hands. His normally controlled face visibly paled. "Where did you find that?" he asked, his voice betraying a tremor. "In the attic," Martha replied firmly, years of loyalty to Zephyr giving her courage, along with old photos of Mr. Albuquerque and his wife and Isabel. The name caused a visible impact on everyone present. Theodore, who until then had remained near the window, involuntarily stepped back. "Isabel worked here," Martha continued, her voice gaining strength. "She wasn't just any employee, she was Mrs. Olivia's friend, her confidant." In the sunroom, Cecily continued drawing frantically. Her small hands moved across the paper as if possessed by a force greater than her, revealing scenes from the past she had never witnessed. "Grandma," she called softly, "the sad lady also lost a baby." Irene looked at the new drawing and felt her heart ache. The illustration showed Olivia in a hospital bed crying while Zephyr held her hand. The date in the corner indicated exactly 7 years ago. In the office, Martha was opening the envelope with trembling hands. "Mrs. Olivia didn't go abroad just for her career," she revealed. "She found something out, something about what you did." Zephyr felt the world spinning around him. The memories he had tried so hard to suppress were beginning to surface. Olivia pregnant, radiant with happiness, the sudden complications, the nursery that remained empty, and Isabel always by her side, comforting her during those dark days. "What's in that envelope doesn't matter anymore," Augustus said, trying to regain control of the situation. "What matters is the red folder. Where is it?" But Martha was already beginning to read the contents of the envelope. A letter from Isabel to Olivia dated 6 years ago. "Dear Olivia," she read aloud, "by the time you read this letter, I will have left. What I've discovered about the orphanage property is just the tip of the iceberg. Augustus is not alone in this. There are powerful people involved, people who would do anything to keep their secrets buried." "Enough!" Augustus shouted, lunging to grab the envelope. At that moment, a high-pitched scream echoed through the hallway. It was Cecily. In the sunroom, the girl had completed another drawing. It showed Isabel pregnant, talking to Olivia in the hospital, both crying together. "The sad lady promised to take care of me," Cecily said, her voice choked with emotion. "But the bad man wouldn't let her." Irene hugged her granddaughter tightly, starting to understand the true extent of the tragedy. "That's why she left you at the orphanage," she whispered, "to protect you." In the office, Martha continued reading, her voice trembling. "Olivia, you need to know the truth. When I lost my job at the company, I was pregnant. I had nowhere to go, no way to raise my daughter alone. You were the only one who reached out, who promised to help me." Zephyr felt his legs weaken. He remembered when Olivia had insisted on helping Isabel financially, how he had refused, worried about his business reputation. "St. Francis Orphanage was the only place I knew," the letter continued. "I had volunteered there before. I knew the nuns. I knew they would take good care of her until I could come back, but then I found the documents in the red folder. I said, "Stop!" Augustus lunged again, but Theodore, surprisingly, held him back. "No," Theodore said, his voice shaking. "Enough lies, enough secrets. D." In the garden, Cecily produced one more drawing. It showed Isabel entering Augustus's office late at night, discovering the documents that would prove the plan to destroy the orphanage. "She tried to save me," Cecily murmured. "She tried to save all the children." Isabel's letter continued. Their plan was simple and cruel. The orphanage property had become too valuable. Augustus and his partners forged reports, bribed inspectors. They planned everything down to the smallest detail, but they didn't count on one thing. My daughter. She has a gift, Olivia. She sees things, like that night at the hospital when she held your hand and drew the little angel you lost. Zephyr staggered, leaning on his desk. The memory hit him like lightning. A small visitor at the hospital, the daughter of one of the nurses, who had drawn a picture for Olivia. A drawing that had brought tears to his wife's eyes, the first smile after days of mourning. "My God," he whispered. It was Cecily. In the garden, the girl completed her series of drawings. The last one showed a scene that hadn't happened yet. Zephyr, Olivia, and herself, together in front of the mansion. The date in the corner was 1 week in the future. "Isabel knew," Irene said softly. "She knew that one day you would find each other again." Martha reached the end of the letter. "When you read this, I will have left. I can't say where I'm going, it's safer that way. But I know that one day, somehow, my little one will find her. Way to you. She has the gift of seeing beyond the present, of connecting the invisible threads that bind people. Take care of her, Olivia, and tell Zephyr. Tell him that sometimes fate gives us a second chance to do the right thing." The silence that followed was deafening. Augustus, realizing he had lost control of the situation, backed towards the door. But before he could reach it, it opened. In the doorway stood Olivia. Time seemed to freeze when Olivia entered the office. Her eyes, tired from a long journey, quickly scanned the scene in front of her. Zephyr leaning on his desk, Martha with the letter in her hands, Theodore near the window, and Augustus, pale as a ghost, backing towards the wall. "I got your message, Martha," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I came on the first flight. The housekeeper had sent an urgent telegram to Olivia as soon as she recognized Cecily, but she hadn't expected such a quick response. Something in his former boss's determined gaze said she had never truly left. She had just been waiting for the right moment to return. "How dare you show your face here?" Augustus snarled, his mask of civility completely shattered. "This is still my home," Olivia replied coldly. "And unlike you, Augustus, I don't need to hide in the shadows." In the sunroom, Cecily suddenly stopped drawing. Her eyes widened, and she stood up as if she had heard a silent call. "The lady from the hospital is here," she said to Irene. "She came for me, like she promised." The elderly woman tried to hold on to her granddaughter, but Cecily was already running through the mansion's hallways with an impressive certainty for someone who had only known the house for a few days. It was as if she had mapped every corner in her drawings, anticipating this exact moment. In the office, Olivia was taking something from her purse, a red folder identical to the one Augustus was searching for. "Looking for this?" she asked, a defiant gleam in her eyes. "Isabel gave me a copy of everything before she left, every document, every piece of evidence of your crimes." "Impossible," Augustus muttered. "She would. Never." "She trusted me," Olivia interrupted, "as I should have trusted her when she warned me about you, about your plans for the orphanage." Zephyr watched his ex-wife with a mixture of admiration and regret. The woman in front of him was no longer the young doctor who had left devastated after the loss of their baby. She was a warrior who had spent the last few years gathering strength for this moment. "Why now?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Why come back after so long?" "Because Isabel made me promise," Olivia replied, her eyes welling up. "Promise that, when her daughter needed me, I would be here." At that moment, Cecily ran into the office. She stopped abruptly upon seeing Olivia, her big eyes fixed on the woman she had only known in her drawings and dreams. "You came," the girl said simply, as if completing a conversation started long ago. Olivia knelt down, bringing herself to Cecily's level. "Yes, little one, as I promised your mother." The scene was interrupted by a bitter laugh from Augustus. "How touching! The kind doctor, the special child, the loyal housekeeper. But don't you understand? You can't prove anything. That fire was an accident. All the reports confirm it." "Forged reports," Theodore said suddenly, his voice trembling. "Just like the land sale documents, the city permits, everything. I helped forge every single one of them." Everyone turned to Theodore, surprised by his confession. The man looked like he had aged 10 years in the last few minutes. "Why are you doing this?" Augustus asked, incredulous. "Because I can't take it anymore," Theodore replied, tears streaming down his face. "I can't bear to wake up every night hearing the cries of those children, seeing their faces in my nightmares." Cecily approached Theodore, taking his hand gently. "They know you're sorry," she said. "I see it in my drawings." The girl then turned to Zephyr, her eyes conveying a wisdom beyond her years. "The sad man is also sorry for not believing the lady from the hospital when she needed him." Zephyr felt his chest tighten. He remembered when Isabel had tried to warn him about the irregularities she had discovered. How he, concerned only with his business, had dismissed her concerns. "I should have listened," he admitted, his voice choked. "I should have helped." "You can still help," Olivia said softly. She opened the red folder, spreading the documents on the desk. Isabel gathered all the evidence: bank records, emails, backdated contracts, everything we need to expose what really happened at St. Francis Orphanage. Augustus advanced menacingly, but Martha was quicker. The housekeeper had discreetly alerted the mansion's security. "It's over, Augustus," she said firmly. "There's nowhere left to run." At that moment, Cecily pulled one of her drawings from the backpack she was carrying. It was a scene from the near future. It showed Augustus in a meeting room, confessing his crimes before several important people from the city. "It will happen tomorrow," she said calmly. "At City Hall, everyone will know the truth." Olivia took another document from the folder. It was a letter from Isabel, still sealed, addressed to Zephyr and dated the previous day. "She always knew this moment would come," Olivia said, handing the letter to her ex-husband. "She knew that one day you would understand why she left Cecily at the orphanage, why she trusted that her daughter would find her way to us." Zephyr took the letter with trembling hands, but before he could open it, Cecily hugged him. It was such a sudden gesture, so full of forgiveness and hope, that the businessman felt his defenses completely crumble. "You don't have to be sad anymore," she said softly. "We can be a family now." Olivia watched the scene with tears in her eyes, remembering the promise she had made to Isabel years ago, when her friend, pregnant and desperate, had sought her help. "I will take care of her," Olivia had promised. "When the time comes, I will make sure she has the home she deserves." Now, seeing Cecily in Zephyr's arms, Olivia knew that her promise was finally being fulfilled. But there was still one last revelation to be made, one last secret that Isabel had entrusted only to her. Night fell over the Albuquerque mansion, bringing with it an atmosphere of change. Augustus had been taken away by security, while Theodore remained, determined to confess everything he knew. In the living room, now illuminated only by the soft glow of the lamps, Olivia prepared to share Isabel's last secret. Cecily sat on the Persian rug, drawing quietly, as if she felt the worst was over. Irene watched her granddaughter with tear-filled I was aware that her role as guardian was coming to an end, but her heart was at peace. "Before you open Isabel's letter," Olivia began, sitting next to Zephyr on the sofa, "you need to understand why she chose this moment to reveal everything." Martha served tea to everyone, her hands still trembling slightly from the day's intensity. The housekeeper had spent the last 20 years watching her employers' lives unfold, but nothing had prepared her for the revelations of that day. "Isabel was more than my friend," Olivia continued, her voice choked with emotion. "She was the only person who truly understood me after we lost our baby." Zephyr stiffened beside her, the memory of that loss still painful after so many years. Cecily, without raising her eyes from her drawing, commented softly, "The little angel watches over you from above." Olivia swallowed hard before continuing. "When Isabel found out she was pregnant, she was investigating irregularities in the company. She had found documents that proved Augustus's involvement in various illegal schemes, not just the orphanage one." "Why didn't she come directly to me?" Zephyr asked, guilt evident in his voice. "Because she tried," Olivia replied. "Several times, but you were different back then. After we lost the baby, you completely shut down. You buried yourself in work, trusted the wrong people." On the rug, Cecily began a new drawing. Her lines were softer now, as if the weight of the secrets she carried was finally dissipating. "Isabel knew she was in danger," Olivia continued. "She found out that Augustus had done this before, buying properties through forged documents, displacing vulnerable people. St. Francis Orphanage was just another on his list." "But why leave Cecily there of all places?" Martha questioned, voicing the doubt everyone shared. Olivia reached for her purse, taking out another envelope. This, one even older than the others. Because the orphanage had a special protection. Isabel discovered something about the Mother Superior, something that would ensure Cecily's safety. The girl stopped drawing, her big eyes fixed on Olivia. "The Mother Superior knew about my gift," she said simply. "She saw things too." "Exactly," Olivia confirmed. "Isabel chose the orphanage because she knew that there Cecily would be understood, that her gift would be protected. The Mother Superior had helped other special children before." Zephyr frowned, a distant memory surfacing. "Wait, there was a nun who used to visit the hospital. She always seemed to know when patients needed special comfort." "Sister Conception," Cecily said, returning to her drawing. "She taught me not to be afraid of the visions. She said they were a gift, not a curse." Olivia opened the old envelope, revealing a yellowed photograph. In it, a young Isabel smiled beside the Mother Superior, both in front of the orphanage. "Isabel volunteered at the orphanage for years before going to work at your company, Zephyr," Olivia explained. "She knew every corner, every employee. She knew that even if something happened to her, Cecily would be safe there." "But the fire," Irene began, her voice failing. "That's when Cecily's gift fully manifested," Olivia completed. "Isabel had foreseen that too. She knew that her daughter would need to go through that ordeal to fully develop her ability." On the rug, Cecily revealed her new drawing. It showed Isabel writing a series of letters by candlelight, tears on her face, but a determined smile on her lips. "Mommy wrote many letters," the girl said. "One for each person who needed to know the truth, but only when the time was right." Zephyr looked at the letter in his hands, still sealed. "And this one, why now?" Olivia took a deep breath before revealing, "Because Isabel knew you would need to be ready for the truth. Not just about the orphanage or about Augustus, but about yourself." "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Open the letter, Zephyr," Olivia encouraged softly. "Isabel left an explanation for everything, including why she chose your company to work for, why she tried so hard to bring the irregularities to your attention." With trembling hands, Zephyr began to open the envelope. Cecily stood up from the rug, approaching him with a new drawing in her hands. It was a portrait of a young Isabel sitting on a park bench, talking to a woman he immediately recognized, his own mother. "Grandma Mary always took care of others," Cecily said, surprising everyone. She introduced Mommy to the Mother Superior. Zephyr felt the air leave his lungs. His mother, Mary Albuquerque, had been known in Newport for her social work before her passing. He had distanced himself from that legacy after her death, focusing only on business. "Isabel was one of your mother's protégées, Zephyr," Olivia explained gently. "When she needed a job, Mrs. Mary was no longer here, but she had left instructions. With the Mother Superior, Isabel came to work at your company not by chance. It was a last request from your mother." The letter in his hands now seemed to weigh a ton. Inside it, there weren't just revelations about the past, but also a path to the future. A future that his mother had somehow helped build, even after her departure. "Read it," Cecily encouraged, holding his free hand. "Mommy said that when you knew the whole truth, your heart would feel lighter." On the sofa next to them, Olivia wiped away a tear. She had kept these secrets for so long, waiting for the right moment to reveal them. Now, seeing Cecily beside Zephyr, she knew Isabel was right. Some truths need to wait until we are ready to receive them. And as the night deepened over the Albuquerque mansion, a new story began to be written. A story of redemption, of second chances, and of a love that transcended blood ties. A story that a small girl had already drawn in her notebook long before it happened. With hands still trembling, Zephyr finally opened Isabel's letter. The paper had a faint scent of lavender, the same perfume his mother used to wear. It couldn't be a coincidence. Beside him, Cecily held his free hand, as if to give him strength to face the words that were to come. "Dearest Zephyr," the letter began, Isabel's delicate handwriting filling the page. "By the time you read these words, you will have already met my little Cecily, and if my dreams are right, she will have already begun to heal your heart." Olivia moved closer, her presence offering a silent comfort he didn't know he still needed. Martha served more tea, her hands now steadier, as if the proximity of the truth brought a strange peace to everyone. "Your mother, Mrs. Mary, was more than my protector," the letter continued. "She was the first person to recognize that I also had a gift. Not as strong as Cecily's, but enough to see fragments of the future in my dreams. That's how I knew my daughter would be special, long before she was born." Zephyr stopped reading for a moment, looking at Cecily. The girl was drawing quietly, as if she already knew every word of the letter. "Mrs. Mary found me at a very difficult time in my life. I was pregnant, alone, and had just discovered Augustus's plans for the orphanage. She took me in, introduced me to the Mother Superior, and made me promise that one day, when the time came, I would help her son find his way back." "My mother," Zephyr murmured, his voice choked. "She knew about everything." "She knew you would need help," Cecily replied softly, without taking her eyes off her drawing. "Grandma Mary saw it in her dreams too." Zephyr continued reading. "Your mother told me about the loss of your baby, about how it had transformed you and Olivia. She feared that the pain would make you lose the path she had always dreamed for her son, a path of compassion and justice, not just financial success." Irene, who had been watching in silence, noticed how Olivia discreetly wiped away tears. The doctor who had left for abroad, carrying her own pain, was now back, ready to help rebuild what had been broken. "When I found out I was pregnant," the letter continued, "I also discovered the documents that proved Augustus's crimes. He wasn't alone. There was an entire network of powerful people involved in land appropriation schemes, using false documents and cruel methods to displace the most vulnerable. St. Francis Orphanage was just one of many targets." Zephyr felt his stomach clench. How many other places had been destroyed? How many other lives ruined while he remained blind, focused only on profits and expansion? But Mrs. Mary had a plan, Isabel's letter continued. She knew that one day you would need to face the truth about your partners, about your company, and she knew you would need someone special to help you see beyond appearances. That's why she asked me to entrust my daughter to the orphanage. The Mother Superior promised to protect Cecily, Olivia interrupted softly. She knew that the girl's gift would be crucial to expose the truth at the right moment. The letter went on. Cecily is not just a child with an extraordinary gift, Zephyr. She is the bridge your mother built between the past and the future. Every drawing she makes, every vision she has, is part of a larger plan. A plan to restore not only justice, but also your own humanity. On the rug, Cecily revealed her new drawing. It showed Mrs. Mary, Isabel, and the Mother Superior gathered in the orphanage garden, planning something that only now began to make sense. I know you must be wondering why I waited so long to reveal everything, the letter continued. Why I allowed the fire to happen, why I didn't prevent so many tragedies. The truth is that some pains are necessary for our growth. Cecily's gift needed to fully awaken, and you, Zephyr, needed to be ready to see the truth. Martha, who had remained silent, let out a choked sob. In all her years of service, she had never imagined that she was witnessing part of such a larger plan. Your mother made me promise to protect not only Cecily, but also you. She knew that one day you would lose your way, that pain and ambition would blind you. But she also knew that at the right moment, a little girl with eyes that see beyond the present would be able to bring light back to your heart. Zephyr stopped reading, his hands shaking so much he almost dropped the letter. Olivia gently took the paper, continuing the reading. Cecily's gift is not just seeing the future or the past. It is something much more precious. She can see the truth in people's hearts. She can see Theodore's regret, the remorse hidden beneath his greed. She can see the love still alive between you and Olivia, just waiting for a chance to be reborn. And she can see the way back home, Cecily completed, holding up her most recent drawing. In it, the Albuquerque mansion was no longer a cold and lonely place, but a vibrant home, full of life and love. I left my daughter in the care of the orphanage, knowing that one day she would find her way to you, the letter proceeded. Not by chance or coincidence, but because it was the destiny that your mother saw in her own dreams. Cecily is not just my daughter, Zephyr. She is the granddaughter that Mrs. Mary chose for you, the child who would bring light back into your life. The silence that followed was profound and significant. Each person in the room processed the magnitude of this revelation in their own way. Irene, who had found Cecily on that fateful night, now understood that her role had also been carefully planned. There is one more thing you need to know, the letter continued, now in Olivia's hands. Something that your mother made me promise to reveal only when you were ready. Something about the true meaning of Cecily's gift and about the future she saw for all of us. On the rug, Cecily began her most important drawing, the one that would reveal the last and most surprising part of the meticulously orchestrated plan by Mary Albuquerque. Cecily's pencil danced across the paper with a mesmerizing fluidity. Everyone in the room kept their eyes fixed on her movements, while Olivia held the last pages of Isabel's letter, waiting for the right moment to reveal its final content. Before I continue the letter, Olivia said softly, you need to see what Cecily is drawing. It's a fundamental part of what Isabel wants to show us. The girl worked with extraordinary concentration, her lines more precise than ever. Slowly, the image took shape. It was the garden of the Albuquerque mansion, but not as it currently was. The drawing showed a transformed space with carefully arranged beds of medicinal flowers, a small community garden, and an annexed building that looked like a clinic. "Grandma Mary's dream," Cecily murmured, without taking her eyes off the paper. "The place she wanted to build before she left." Zephyr approached the drawing, his heart beating faster. "My mother. She always talked about turning part of the property into a center for underprivileged children. I never listened to that dream." "It wasn't just a center for underprivileged children," Olivia continued, returning to the letter. "Isabel explains here, Mrs. Mary had a much bigger vision. She dreamed of a place where special children like Cecily could be protected and understood, where their gifts would be cultivated to help others, not feared or suppressed." In the drawing, Cecily added more details: children playing in the garden, some drawing like her, others talking to adults who seemed like doctors and therapists. In one corner, a figure resembling Olivia was tending to a family. "Your mother knew that one day you and Olivia would reunite," the letter proceeded. "She saw that your gift for caring for people, yours through business, Olivia's through medicine, would one day complement each other in an extraordinary way." Martha, who had been watching in silence, let out an exclamation of surprise when Cecily added her figure to the drawing, showing the housekeeper teaching a group of children how to care for the garden flowers. "The Mary Albuquerque Institute," Cecily said, writing the name in delicate letters at the top of the drawing. "It will be a place of healing." Irene watched her granddaughter with tear-filled eyes, finally understanding why she had been guided to find Cecily on that night of the fire. It wasn't just to protect the girl, but to ensure she reached the place where her gift could flourish fully. "But there's more," Olivia said, her voice trembling slightly as she continued reading. "Mrs. Mary didn't just foresee the creation of the Institute. She left specific instructions, documents, and resources set aside for when this moment arrived." Zephyr felt his legs weaken, needing to lean on the sofa. "What do you mean?" "Your mother," Olivia continued reading the letter, "converted a significant part of her inheritance into a secret fund, protected by a set of trusted lawyers. The money could only be accessed when certain conditions were met. Conditions she knew would only happen when you were truly ready to realize her dream." Cecily continued drawing, now adding a scene that appeared to be from the future. It showed an inauguration ceremony with many people gathered in front of the Institute. In the center of the image, Zephyr and Olivia were cutting a ribbon, while she herself, a little older, held a bouquet of flowers. "The fund doesn't just contain money," the letter proceeded. "There are detailed architectural blueprints, therapeutic programs developed in partnership with international experts, and a network of professionals already committed to the project. Your mother spent the last years of her life planning every detail, knowing that one day you would understand the true reason for your business empire." "To build something bigger," Zephyr murmured, his mother's words echoing in his memory. "She always said that, but I never truly understood what it meant." "The Institute will be more than a treatment center," Cecily explained, still focused on her drawing. "It will be a place where people like me can help other people see the truth in their hearts." In the drawing, she added small, significant details: a library filled with books about extraordinary phenomena, therapy rooms decorated with premonitory drawings, gardens designed for meditation and healing. "Mrs. Mary knew that Cecily's gift was just the beginning," Olivia continued, reading the last pages of the letter. "There are other children like her, scattered across the city, the country, needing guidance and protection. The Institute will be a beacon for them, a place where they can develop their gifts without fear. And not just children," Cecily added, surprising everyone. "Grandma Mary said in my dreams that adults also need to relearn how to see with their hearts." At this moment, she revealed another drawing she had kept hidden. It showed Theodore, in the future, volunteering at the Institute, helping with administration, his face marked no longer by guilt, but by a regained serenity. "Regret can be a new beginning," she said, with that wisdom that seemed to come from elsewhere. "That's what Grandma Mary taught Mommy." Olivia reached the last lines of the letter, her voice choked with emotion. "Zephyr, by the time you read these words, you will have already begun your journey back to the person your mother always knew you could be. Cecily is not just a child who needs a home. She is the catalyst for a much larger transformation. Through her, Mrs. Mary's legacy will finally be fulfilled. And through it," Cecily completed, making the final strokes on her drawing, "many families will be healed." The final image showed a scene that made everyone hold their breath. The institute in full operation, with dozens of children and their families, each with their own story of pain and hope. In the center of the garden, a statue of Mary Albuquerque, with a plaque that read, "To see beyond the present, one must first open the heart." "There's one more thing," Cecily said, turning the page to start a new drawing. "Something that Grandma Mary kept especially for this moment." And as the pencil began to dance across the paper again, everyone in the room knew they were about to witness the last and most important revelation of the meticulously orchestrated plan by Mary Albuquerque. The silence in the room was almost palpable as Cecily began her new drawing. Her lines were different now, softer, more personal, as if she was depicting an intimate memory that only she could see. "This one is special," the girl said, her voice low. "It's a drawing that Grandma Mary asked me to keep until today." The image that appeared on the paper made Zephyr bring his hand to his chest. It was his mother's old office, a space she kept in the back of the mansion, where she provided free consultations for needy families. The place had been closed after her passing, turned into a storage room for antique furniture that no one had the heart to remove. "Behind the mahogany bookshelf," Cecily continued, adding details to the drawing, "there's a secret door. Grandma Mary hid something important there." Olivia immediately stood up. "The old office, it's still the same?" "No one has touched anything since Mrs. Mary left," Martha replied, her voice choked. "Mr. Zephyr didn't allow anyone to go in." There, Zephyr was paralyzed, long suppressed memories returning to the surface. I couldn't face that place. The memories. "Sometimes we need to face the pain to find healing," Cecily said softly, completing her drawing with a crucial detail. A small golden key hanging on a cord, hidden inside a specific book on the bookshelf. "Manual of Community Medicine," Olivia read, recognizing the book in the drawing. "It was your mother's favorite. She always said that true medicine began in the heart of the community." The group headed to the old office, Cecily leading the way, holding her drawing like a map. The smell of mold and years of abandonment greeted them as Martha opened the heavy curtains, letting the late afternoon light in for the first time in years. The office was exactly as in Cecily's drawing. The furniture covered with white sheets, the imposing mahogany bookshelf occupying the entire back wall, and dozens of medical books meticulously organized, covered with a thin layer of dust. "There!" Cecily pointed, going straight to the third shelf. Her small fingers found the book without hesitation, as if she had done it hundreds of times in her dreams. When they opened the book, the golden key fell gently, attached to a faded silk cord. Along with it, an old photograph, a young Mary Albuquerque sitting in her office, tending to a pregnant patient whom everyone immediately recognized. It was Isabel's mother. "The circle is complete," Olivia murmured, understanding the depth of the connection between the families. With the key in hand, they followed the instructions in Cecily's drawing. The mahogany bookshelf had a hidden mechanism that, when activated, revealed a small secret door. Inside, they found a room that seemed to have been preserved in time. "The true heart of the mansion," Cecily said, entering the space naturally, as if she already knew it intimately. The secret room was a personal office, very different from the official consulting room. On the walls, dozens of photographs told a story Zephyr had never fully known. His mother with various patients, children, families. In many of them, people had the same intense eyes as Cecily, that look that seemed to see beyond the present. She found them, Cecily explained, touching the photographs with reverence, special people like me. Grandma Mary helped them understand their gifts. In the center of the room, an antique desk held a voluminous diary and a series of chronologically organized folders. Zephyr picked up the diary with trembling hands, recognizing his mother's elegant handwriting. "And J Project Awakening," he read on the cover of the diary. "What is this about?" "It's Grandma Mary's true legacy," Cecily replied, already starting a new drawing. "The Institute isn't just a place to heal people, it's part of something much bigger." Olivia began to examine the folders, her medical eyes quickly identifying patterns in the documents. "These are case studies, dozens of them. Your mother was systematically documenting cases of people with special gifts, developing methods to help them." "And not just that," Martha added, who had found a more recent folder. "She was building a network, doctors, therapists, educators, people committed to helping these special cases." Zephyr opened the diary, beginning to read, "Today I met another child with the gift of vision. Like the others, she carries in her eyes that special light, that ancient wisdom that transcends age. I am increasingly convinced that these gifts are not accidents or anomalies. They are divine tools to heal the wounds of our society." Cecily finished her new drawing, showing it to everyone. It was a representation of the future institute, but now with an additional detail. In the basement, there was a modern replica of the secret room, a space dedicated to the research and documentation of special cases. Grandma Mary knew that one day people would need to understand these gifts better, the girl explained. "The Institute will continue her work, helping other children like me not to be afraid of their visions. But there's more," she said, turning the page to a new drawing, "the most important part of her plan." The image that emerged left everyone speechless. It showed Zephyr and Olivia, in the future, working together at the Institute. He appeared, talking to families, no longer the cold businessman, but a man transformed by the understanding of the true purpose of his wealth. Olivia was in her element, combining her medical expertise with a new understanding of special gifts. "The Institute is not just a place of healing," Cecily continued, her eyes shining with wisdom. "It's a new beginning for all of us. Grandma, Mary knew you needed to get lost, to find your way back to each other, and to the work that truly matters." At that moment, something in the diary caught Zephyr's attention. It was an entry dated a few days before his mother's passing. "My son has lost his way, but I know that one day he will find it again. The little one I saw in my dreams, Isabel's daughter, will be the key. She not only inherited the gift of vision, she carries within her the ability to awaken the best in people. And when Zephyr finally opens his heart to her, the circle I began so many years ago will finally be complete." "But there's still one last thing," Cecily said, starting her final drawing of the night. "Grandma Mary's biggest secret, the one she saved especially for this moment." Cecily's pencil glided across the paper with a hypnotic smoothness, while everyone waited in suspense. The secret room seemed to vibrate with the energy of the revelation still to come. Zephyr held his mother's diary against his chest, as if those pages could somehow bring back the warmth of her embrace. "This drawing," Cecily began, her voice softer than a whisper, "Grandma Mary showed me in dreams many times, but she always said I could only show it when everyone was ready to understand. The image that appeared on the paper was different from all the others. It didn't show the future, nor did it recount the past. It was a kind of emotional map, a delicate web of connections between people who, at first glance, seemed to have no relation whatsoever. These are all the special people Grandma Mary helped, Cecily explained, tracing golden lines between the faces she was drawing. Each of them had a different gift, but all the gifts were connected somehow. Olivia approached the drawing, her medical eyes identifying patterns that her scientific training had never prepared her to understand. These symbols next to each person. They are the types of gifts, Cecily completed. Some see the future like me, others feel people's emotions, or heal with their hands, or dream the truth. Grandma Mary called this the web of light. Martha, who was organizing the folders they had found, discovered a particularly old one, its contents revealing photographs and notes dating back decades. Mrs. Mary was mapping these cases since she was young, she observed, amazed. But the real secret, Cecily continued, turning the page to a new drawing, is that all these gifts have a bigger purpose. The new image showed Mary Albuquerque in her office, attending to different people over the years. In each scene, a golden light connected the patients, forming a complex pattern that extended beyond the edges of the paper. Grandma Mary discovered that gifts don't appear by chance, Cecily explained. They emerge in specific places and times when people need help the most, like seeds planted by the sky to heal the wounds of the earth. Zephyr found a specific entry in the diary that confirmed the girl's words. Each gift we discover is like a piece of a divine puzzle. They are not accidents or anomalies. They are answers to the silent prayers of a world desperately in need of healing. But there's more, Cecily said, her eyes shining with an ancient wisdom. She began a third drawing, this one even more detailed than the previous ones. Grandma Mary wasn't just studying the gifts. She was preparing the way for something bigger. The new drawing revealed a series of locations scattered across the United States, hospitals, schools, community centers, each marked with a special symbol. These are the other places like the Institute will be, she explained. Places where special people are already working, waiting to connect. A network of healing, Olivia murmured, understanding the magnitude of the plan. Your mother was creating a national infrastructure to support people with extraordinary gifts. And each place has a guardian, Cecily continued, adding figures to the marked locations. People Grandma Mary personally trained, preparing them for this moment. Zephyr found more entries in the diary, detailing meetings with doctors, therapists, educators, people his mother had carefully selected and prepared over the years. Each of them had received specific instructions, waiting for the moment when the network would finally be activated. But the biggest secret of all, Cecily said, starting her most important drawing of the night, is about the two of you. The image that emerged made Zephyr and Olivia hold their breath. It showed them years ago, still young and in love, with Mary Albuquerque between them. In her hands, an object glowed with a special light. "The locket," Olivia whispered, automatically bringing her hand to her neck, where a thin chain still rested. "Your mother gave it to me before she passed," Cecily completed. "She said that one day you would understand its true meaning." Olivia removed the locket she always carried with her, even during her years abroad. She had never been able to open it, despite there being a tiny lock clearly visible on its side. "The golden key," Martha said softly, pointing to the cord they had found in the book. With trembling hands, Olivia fitted the small key into the locket. The soft click that followed seemed to echo throughout the room. Inside, there was a miniature photograph that no one expected. It showed Olivia in the hospital, the day she lost their baby, with a small visitor by her side, a child they now recognized as Isabel. "It was that day," Cecily said, her drawing, showing the scene with details only someone who had been there could know. "Mommy was interning at the hospital. She felt your pain, even though she was so young. That's when her gift started to manifest. I remember that day, Olivia murmured, tears streaming down her face. A young intern came into the room, said she was sorry. She held my hand and the pain lessened a little. Isabel had the gift of emotional healing, Cecily explained, continuing her drawing. She couldn't prevent losses, but she could help people carry their pain. Grandma Mary recognized her gift immediately. The drawing now showed a sequence of events. Mary Albuquerque taking Isabel under her protection, teaching her to understand and develop her gift, preparing her for a crucial role in her grand plan. But the real miracle, Cecily continued, turning the page to her last drawing of the night, was what happened next. The final image made everyone hold their breath. It showed Isabel pregnant, being secretly seen by Mary Albuquerque in her office. In the doctor's hands, an ultrasound machine revealed something extraordinary, a tiny heart that glowed with a special light. "Me," Cecily said simply. Grandma Mary was the first to see that I would be different, that I would carry not just Mommy's gift, but something more, something she had been looking for a long time. "The gift of gifts," Zephyr read from one of the last entries in his mother's diary. A child who would not only see the future, but would be able to awaken and connect the gifts of others, the key to activating the entire network I have built over a lifetime. Cecily completed her drawing with a final detail, a golden light emanating from her heart, connecting to the lights of all the other special people Mary Albuquerque had helped over the years. "And now," she said softly, "it's time to wake up. All the other places, Grandma Mary said that when you were ready, when your love healed, it would be the signal." At that moment, something extraordinary began to happen to Olivia's locket. The locket in Olivia's hands began to emit a soft, almost imperceptible glow, which seemed to pulse at the same rhythm as a heart. The temperature of the metal changed, becoming warmly comforting, as if waking from a long sleep. "It's the signal," Cecily whispered, her eyes shining with a light similar to the locket's. "Grandma Mary said this would only happen when all the pieces of the puzzle were in place." Zephyr approached Olivia, and for the first time in years, there were no barriers between them. The shared suffering, the old resentments, everything seemed to dissolve in the soft light emanating from the locket. "There's something else inside here," Olivia noticed, her medical fingers detecting an additional secret compartment. Delicately, she pressed a small, almost invisible protrusion on the locket's edge. The second compartment opened with a soft click, revealing a small crystal and a meticulously folded paper. Cecily was already prepared with a new drawing, showing exactly what would happen next. "The crystal is special," she explained, her lines on the paper revealing a complex network of light. Grandma Mary spent years looking for it. "It's like a master key to all the gifts." Martha found a specific note in the diary that explained more. "The crystal of light, as the ancients called it, has the unique ability to amplify and connect special gifts." Finding it was a decades-long journey, but finally, in the mountains of Newport, in an ancient grotto that the region's first inhabitants considered sacred, I discovered what I was looking for. Olivia carefully unfolded the paper from the locket. Mary Albuquerque's handwriting, though tiny to fit in the small space, was perfectly legible. "My dearest Zephyr and Olivia, if you are reading this, it means that the moment I foresaw has finally arrived. Your love, which seemed lost, found its way back through the light that Cecily brought into your lives. The crystal accompanying this message is the final key to awakening the entire network I have built over my lifetime. Each special person I helped received a small stone that resonates with this matrix crystal. When activated by Cecily's unique gift, it will create a permanent connection between all points in the network. But there is a price to activate this power. The crystal only works through true love and voluntary sacrifice. You will need to decide together if you are willing to dedicate the rest of your lives to this work, to transform the Albuquerque mansion, not just into an institute, but into a beacon of hope for special people across the country. Cecily is the key, but you are the guardians. Through your rediscovered love, she will be able to awaken her full gift and activate the entire network. With eternal love, Mother. As Olivia read the letter aloud, Cecily worked on a new drawing, more detailed than any she had done before. The image showed the Albuquerque mansion transformed, radiating a golden light that connected to various points across the country. Each point is one of the places Grandma Mary prepared, she explained, adding more details to the drawing. Hospitals, schools, community centers, they all have someone special waiting, with a small stone that will glow when the matrix crystal is activated. Zephyr found more notes in the diary that confirmed his mother's elaborate plan. Each guardian was chosen not only for their gift, but for their capacity to love and dedicate themselves to others. Some are doctors, like Olivia, who can combine traditional medicine with healing gifts. Others are educators, who will help special children develop their talents. Each has their specific role in the network. But there's something else, Cecily said, starting another drawing. Something Grandma Mary only wanted me to show when you were truly ready. The new image revealed a scene from the future. It showed Zephyr and Olivia at a special ceremony, surrounded by people from all parts of the country. Each of them held a small stone that glowed in resonance with the matrix crystal. "It's the gathering of guardians," Cecily explained. "It will happen exactly 1 month from now, when the moon is full and the energies are strongest." Olivia, holding the locket and the crystal, looked at Zephyr. Years of hurt and distance dissolved in a single look of mutual understanding. "We need to make a decision," she said softly. "Actually," Cecily interrupted, her eyes shining with wisdom, "the decision was already made the moment your hearts opened to each other again. That's why the locket awakened." At that moment, something extraordinary began to happen. The crystal in Olivia's hands began to pulse stronger, and Cecily picked up her pencil with renewed urgency. The drawing that now emerged showed something that was happening in real time. In different parts of the country, small stones were beginning to glow, and special people were awakening to a silent call. "The network is waking up," Cecily said, her own eyes emitting a soft, golden glow. "All the guardians are feeling it. Grandma Mary's plan is finally coming together." Martha, who had remained silent, watching everything with tear-filled eyes, found one last folder in the secret archive. Inside it, there were meticulously prepared legal documents. The official transformation of the Albuquerque mansion into a foundation, contracts with health and education professionals, detailed architectural blueprints, everything ready, just waiting for the right signatures. "She thought of everything," Zephyr murmured, amazed by his mother's foresight and dedication. "And there's one more thing," Cecily said, starting her final drawing of the night. "Something that will happen tonight, when the matrix crystal fully awakens." The image that began to emerge on the paper made everyone hold their breath. It was something that no one, not even in their most optimistic dreams, could have imagined possible. The drawing that emerged under Cecily's pencil was different from all the others. The image formed with crystalline clarity, as if the very light of the locket was guiding her strokes. On the paper, an extraordinary scene took shape. The Albuquerque mansion garden bathed in a golden glow, and in the center, a translucent figure that everyone immediately recognized, Mary Albuquerque. "She's coming back," Cecily said softly, "but not like we think. It's more like a message she stored in the matrix crystal." The locket in Olivia's hands pulsed stronger and stronger, its glow gradually increasing until it filled the entire secret room. The matrix crystal began to vibrate with a specific frequency, producing a soft, melodious sound. "We need to go to the garden," Cecily announced, already gathering her drawings. "That's where everything will happen." As the group headed to the garden, Martha noticed something extraordinary. Small points of light were beginning to appear in the air, like fireflies on a summer night. Irene, who was watching everything with respectful silence, held her granddaughters and tightly, feeling that she was about to witness something unique. In the garden, the night was extraordinarily clear, with stars shining brightly in the Newport sky. The air was charged with a special energy, as if nature itself was awaiting the moment to come. "Here," Cecily indicated, stopping exactly in the center of the garden. "This is where Grandma Mary used to sit to plan everything." Zephyr recognized the spot. An old stone bench surrounded by rose bushes his mother had planted herself. How many times had he seen her there, seemingly just enjoying the flowers, when in reality she was weaving a web of light that would extend across the entire country. Olivia, still holding the locket and the crystal, felt a sudden understanding. The crystal, it's not just a key, it's a vessel of memories. Of memories and of love, Cecily completed, starting a new drawing. Grandma Mary spent years charging it with everything we needed to know. The drawing now showed a sequence of scenes. Mary Albuquerque at different moments in her life, always discreetly touching the matrix crystal, storing within it not just information, but also emotions, hopes, and precise instructions for the future. She knew she wouldn't be physically here when this moment arrived, Cecily explained, so she found a way to leave a part of herself stored in the crystal, waiting for the right moment to awaken. At that instant, the matrix crystal began to emit an even more intense glow. Small golden beams of light projected from it, forming a kind of three-dimensional screen in the air. And then, like in a perfectly clear movie, the image of Mary Albuquerque materialized before them. "My dearest ones," the projection began, her voice exactly as everyone remembered. "If you are seeing this message, it means you have finally found your way back to each other, and more importantly, you have found Cecily." The luminous figure of Mary seemed so real, so present, that Zephyr had to restrain himself from trying to touch her. Olivia, by his side, held the locket with silent tears streaming down her face. "What you have discovered so far is just the beginning," Mary continued. "The network of guardians I have built over the years is more extensive than you can imagine. In every state across the United States, there are special people waiting for this signal, ready to begin a work that will forever change the way we care for each other." Cecily continued drawing, now showing a map of the United States covered in interconnected points of light. Each point represented a guardian, each line of light a connection that was about to awaken. "But the true miracle," Mary proceeded, "is not in the gifts themselves, but in the love that activates them. Zephyr, my son, you needed to lose everything to understand that our true wealth lies in how we touch the lives of others. Olivia, your departure was not an end, but part of the necessary path for both of you to grow and prepare for this mission." Mary's projection then turned to Cecily, her smile full of love and recognition. "And you, little light, are more than just the granddaughter I chose. You are the catalyst that will awaken a new era of healing and understanding." At this moment, something extraordinary began to happen. The matrix crystal emitted a stronger pulse of light, and dozens of small lights began to appear in the garden. Each light represented one of the special people Mary had helped over the years, their presences connected through time and space by that unique moment. "Now," Mary said, "the time for true transformation has arrived. The Institute will not just be a place of healing, but the center of a silent revolution of love and understanding." Every special person I helped left a little of their light in the matrix crystal, and now that light will awaken all the other crystals scattered across the country. Cecily completed her drawing with a final detail. It showed the future of the Institute, not just as a place of treatment, but as a beacon of hope that would inspire the creation of hundreds of other similar centers, each adapted to the specific needs of its region. "But there is one last secret," Mary continued, her projection now brighter than ever, "something I saved especially for this moment." Mary's luminous image approached Zephyr and Olivia, who instinctively took each other's hands, the locket and the matrix crystal between them. Cecily positioned herself beside them, completing a perfect circle. "The true power of the matrix crystal is not in its ability to connect gifts," Mary revealed, "but in its ability to heal wounds from the past and transform them into strength for the future." At this moment, the crystal began to emit a different, deeper and more personal light. Images from Zephyr and Olivia's past began to form in the air. The day of their wedding, the pregnancy period, the loss of their baby, the years of distance. But now, each painful memory was bathed in a light of understanding and healing. "You didn't just lose a child that day," Mary said softly. "You lost the ability to see the light, even in the darkest moments. But now, through Cecily, you have the chance not only to heal that wound, but to transform it into a gift that will help thousands of other people find light in their own shadows." Mary's projection began to become more translucent, indicating that her time was coming to an end. But before disappearing completely, she had one last revelation to make, something that would forever change everyone's understanding of the true meaning of that extraordinary night. The luminous projection of Mary Albuquerque took a step forward, her presence clearer than ever. The entire garden seemed to pulse with a golden energy as the matrix crystal reached the peak of its power. "There is one last truth you need to know," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "Something that explains why everything had to happen exactly this way, at this moment." Cecily was already prepared with her notebook, her lines more precise than ever, as if every previous drawing had been just a rehearsal for this definitive moment. The image that began to emerge on the paper was different from all the others. It showed a complex web of interconnected events starting years before her own birth. "When I lost my first child," Mary began, surprising everyone with this personal revelation, "I discovered that I had a special gift. It wasn't like Cecily's or Isabel's. It was the ability to see the invisible threads that connect people, to understand how every pain, every loss, every moment of love serves a greater purpose." Zephyr felt his heart clench. He had never known that his mother had suffered a loss similar to what he and Olivia had experienced. Cecily's drawing now showed a young Mary Albuquerque, alone in a hospital room, but surrounded by a golden light that seemed to originate from her own pain. "It was through that loss that I understood my mission," Mary continued. "I realized that there were other special people scattered across the world, each carrying a unique gift that often sprang from their own wounds. And I understood that I needed to prepare them for a specific moment in the future, this moment." The matrix crystal pulsed stronger, and new images began to form in the air. It showed Mary over the years discreetly meeting with different people, each with a story of pain transformed into a gift. In each encounter, she handed them a small stone, a shard of the matrix crystal, planting seeds of light that now finally blossomed. But the plan wouldn't be complete without the three of you, she said, looking with love at Zephyr, Olivia, and Cecily. "Son, your pain in losing your baby was not in vain. Olivia, your departure was not just an escape. And Cecily, your gift is not just seeing the future. It's much greater than that." Cecily's drawing now showed something extraordinary, a line of light connecting the loss of Mary's first child with the loss of Zephyr and Olivia's baby. And from that shared pain, a new light was born, directed straight to herself. You three, Mary explained, form the sacred triangle that will support the entire network. Zephyr, you have the gift of provision, not just material, but the ability to build structures that protect and nurture. Olivia, your gift of healing goes far beyond traditional medicine. You can touch the wounds of the soul. And Cecily, the girl looked at the projection of her spiritual grandmother, her eyes shining with understanding. Cecily is the first of a new generation of healers, Mary revealed. Her gift is not just seeing the future or the past. It is the ability to awaken the dormant gifts in others, to transform pain into light, to connect broken hearts and restore them. At that moment, the matrix crystal emitted a pulse of light so intense that everyone had to shield their eyes. When the light subsided, they saw that small, luminous points had appeared throughout the garden. They were the shards of the crystal that Mary had distributed over the years, each now glowing in resonance with the matrix crystal. The Institute will be more than a healing center, Mary continued. It will be a point of awakening where wounded people will discover that their own pains can transform into gifts to help others. And the three of you will be the guardians of this sacred knowledge. Cecily's final drawing now showed the future of the Institute, a place where people arrived carrying their pains and left carrying light, where every story of loss transformed into a story of rebirth, where love was not just a feeling, but a tangible force of transformation. And there's one more thing, Mary said, her projection beginning to soften. Isabel did not pass away as you think. She is alive, waiting for the right moment to return. This revelation made Cecily look up from her drawing, tears of joy streaming down her face. On the paper, a new image was forming. It showed Isabel in a distant place, surrounded by other special people, preparing to return when the network was fully activated. She needed to leave to protect Cecily and complete her own mission, Mary explained. There are other centers like this being prepared in different countries, other networks of light being woven. When Isabel returns, she will bring with her knowledge that will connect our US network with others around the world. The matrix crystal pulsed one last time, and Mary's projection began to dissolve into thousands of golden points of light that danced in the night air. My last message is this, she said, her voice now sounding like music. Love is never lost, it only transforms. Every pain you carry is a seed of light waiting to blossom. And now, finally, the garden I planted throughout my life is ready to bloom. The points of light began to spread through the garden, each finding its place among the flowers Mary had planted years ago. The matrix crystal, now fully awakened, emitted a constant, comforting glow. Zephyr and Olivia looked at each other, years of hurt dissolving into a new understanding. Between them, Cecily smiled, her eyes reflecting the light of the stars and something more, the promise of a future where every wound could transform into healing, every loss into gain, every end into a new beginning. And so, on that magical night in the Albuquerque garden, a new story began. It wasn't just the story of a family reunited or of a healing institute or even of a national network of light. It was the story of how love, even traversing the deepest shadows, always finds a way back home. Cecily's last drawing showed this final scene. Zephyr, Olivia, and herself united in an embrace under the stars, while in the background, the Mary Albuquerque Institute shone like a beacon of hope in the Newport night. And on the edges of the and paper, written in the delicate hand of a child who saw beyond the present, the words her spiritual grandmother had stored in the matrix crystal. Where there is pain, we will plant light. Where there is darkness, we will ignite stars. And where there are broken hearts, we will build bridges of love. The future was just beginning.